Welcome to Ready, Set, Collaborate with Wanda Pearson. This is where ideas spark, connections grow, and collaborations fuse success. Tune in for inspiring stories, expert insights, and game-changing conversations. Let's build, connect, and thrive together. Remember, collaboration is the key to success.
Welcome to the Ready, Set, Collaborate with Wanda Pearson, where we empower, educate, and elevate through powerful conversations and bold collaborations. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a dynamic voice in the world of creativity and courage, Melissa Dinwiddie.
That's right.
Did I say it right?
Dinwitty.
Okay, good. Melissa is a creative instigator, speaker, author, and founder of Creative Sandbox Solutions. She helps people reclaim their innate creative confidence, build resilience. God, I can't even talk it. Resilience, and step boldly into their brilliance. Get ready to be inspired by practical tools, joyful storytelling, and fresh take on what it means to thrive creatively. Lord have mercy, this has been a long day, Melissa. So thrive creativity in your life and work. So let's dive in. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, Wanda. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I know we're on the time crunch here because I tell you, we busy women here, right? We just keep it going. Nothing stops us. That's what we're powerhouses. That's what we call women powerhouses, right?
That's right. Indeed.
Yes, definitely. So I am actually going to read your bio, and then we're going to dive into some questions here. Melissa Dinwiddie is on a mission to help leaders and teams turn the impossible into reality by uncovering their creative potential. A Juilliard-trained dancer, wow, professional artist for 15 years, jazz singer, songwriter, and performer, improviser. How do you say that? Improviser?
Improviser.
Improviser, got it. Okay, improviser. Yeah, my tongue is like twisted today, so. Melissa brings a wealth of creative experiences in her work with companies like Google, Meta, and Salesforce. As the author of Creative Sandbox Way, she's passionate about showing people how to embrace play, imperfection, experimentation as tools for innovation. I love it. Known for her engaging interactive keynotes and workshops, Melissa empowers individuals and teams to unlock creativity, strengthen collaboration, and thrive in the face of uncertainty. When not leading transformation, she's making art or attempting ukulele. Did I say it right? Ukulele and bass duets with herself. Okay. I guess I should have practiced these words here before. This is awesome. I tell you, I wish we had time for you to play a little bit of it with them. Then the jazz singer, I said, sing it, just to sing a little twinkle, Melissa, of your jazz.
I need a vacation from email, faxes, and phone.
I love that. I love it. Me too. I'm gonna have you make that my model song. Thank you for coming on the podcast for Ready, Set, Collaborate. I really appreciate it. So let's dive in. Let's talk about how you can share a bit of your journey, how the creativity becomes such a central part of your life and work. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So, what's so interesting, Wanda, is when people hear my history, they hear my background, the reaction that I always get is, wow, oh my gosh, she's such a creative person. But what really surprises people to hear is that I spent probably about 15 years of my life, if not more, believing that I was a non-creative person.
Wow.
And yeah, I always get the raised eyebrows or the head tilts when people learn that.
Yeah.
I literally, from age 13 to age 28, I believed that I was a non-creative person. And
Wow.
I talk about this in my keynote. There was a real pivotal moment that I kind of trace it back to, but it really started before this. But I share a story in my keynote of being in an art class when I was 13 and comparing my work to everybody else's work and really looking at my work, and the gremlin voices were going nuts saying my work sucked and everybody else's work is so much better. And that moment, I gave up on art. I didn't take any more art classes. I didn't make any art for 15 years. And 2 years later, I gave up on music. And now I did dive into dance for a while, and that was going to be my career path. But then I got injured, and that was the end of that. And for 15 years, I believed that I was a non-creative person. And it wasn't until I was 28 that I finally came back to art and creativity. And I made the mistake that many people do, which is equating the ability to draw realistically with creativity. So many people do that and they think, oh, I'm not creative because I can't draw a person or I can't draw a tree or whatever it is. But creativity and drawing are not the same things. And everybody, human beings are all creative. The other thing that people tend to do is we think just because I can't do this one thing over here, that this means that this has applications over everything. It's global. I can't do this one thing, therefore I'm not creative completely. And what my keynote talks about also is the importance of getting past these limiting beliefs. It's not just a one and done. It's a mindset. And I have this framework, my Create the Impossible framework, that's 3 steps that sound deceptively simple. It's a repeatable process because you can overcome a limiting belief in one area of your life, but that doesn't mean that you've eliminated the limiting beliefs in other areas of your life. I call them self-installed glass ceilings. And just because you've busted a self-installed glass ceiling, a limiting belief in one area, doesn't mean that you're not going to face them in other areas. And so what we really need to do is build the muscles of being able to identify when those limiting beliefs pop up and being able to move through them. And that's what my framework offers people.
I love that because the same with me. I didn't think that growing up, from my history, I said I would never write a book. I didn't think I was creative to write a book, right? So God said, "Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you can." So now I'm actually writing my 4th book, 2 collaborations with my 2 of my own books, and it's amazing how the creativity that you find that you didn't think you had, and then you said it took you that long. It took me. I'm going to tell you how I am to realize that I can do this, and I love what you teach as far as that. So, what inspired you to start Creative Sandbox Solutions? And I think you probably pretty much told us a little bit about that, how you.
Yeah, coming from my business as a professional artist, I got really burned out and really burned out making art for other people, had to come back to making art for my own fulfillment, enjoyment, spiritual, giving myself the joy of making art. I had to figure out how to get back to that for myself. And so I developed a set of tools for myself, which are now part of make up the scaffolding of my book, The Creative Sandbox Way. And that sort of led to a second business as a creativity instigator, helping other people get creatively unstuck. So I did that for a while. And then ultimately in 2017, I decided to pivot and work with organizations. And over the next several years, I realized that the 10 guideposts that form the scaffolding of this book, The Creative Sandbox Way, could really be distilled down into this framework that I mentioned before, the Create the Impossible framework. That's 3 steps. And so really the decision that I made to work with organizations was I felt that's where I could make the most impact. And also the work that I was doing as a creativity instigator was almost all online at the time. It was through these online courses and online coaching. And I really wanted to be in rooms with people. Of course, the irony was not long after I pivoted, we had this little thing called a global pandemic, and I found myself doing everything virtually again.
I was going to ask you about that. I thought it was when you did that virtually. So that was great that you started it before even the pandemic, started, that you already knew the framework of doing it on virtual. And I tell you, what would we do without Zoom, right? Look at us now,
Yes.
Zoom. You're in California, I'm in Atlanta. It really is a great connection to be able to still connect virtually
Yes.
on any platform. So let me ask you something. So what does creative courage mean to you?
Oh, I love that. I love that phrase, creative courage. I think that anytime we do anything creative, by definition, it means that we are stepping outside of our comfort zones. Because if we are staying within our comfort zones, we're doing something that has already been done before. And by definition, that's not creative. Because in order to be creative, it has to be something that we haven't done before. And that requires courage. It requires us to take a risk. That requires courage. So creativity is inherently requiring of courage. It's scary. anything that requires us to take a risk, that requires us to step outside our comfort zone is scary. And it's one of the reasons why creatives are known for battling creative block, as it's called, writer's block, creative stuck. It goes by various different kinds of names because it's really hard to step outside your comfort zone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because when I start writing, I said, why would people want to read my book?
Yeah.
So I'm questioning myself, doubting myself.
Yep.
And that's why that creative block actually comes and say, I can do this. But I tell you, it's amazing. So I want to ask you this question here and then actually interweave with that. So what are some of the simple ways our listeners can reconnect with their creativity, even if they think they're not artistic?
Yeah. One of the things that is so important for people to really understand is that creativity and art is just a subset of creativity. Creativity really is solving problems, connecting dots, thinking about how am I going to take whatever I have in the refrigerator and make dinner tonight? That's creativity.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with my garden now that everything's turned brown or whatever? That's creativity. So creativity is problem solving essentially. So I would love for people to be able to uncouple the idea of creativity and art. Yes, they can go together, but not necessarily. Doing art is a great way to expand your innate sense of yourself as a creative. So I encourage people to pursue artistic pursuits if it's something that calls to them. I think it's a great way to expand your creativity. It's also a great way to develop your leadership skills, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
Not something that people ever think about as a leadership development arena, but all sorts of different artistic pursuits, whether they're individual artistic pursuits like drawing, painting, singing, or music, or group artistic pursuits are all great ways to develop leadership skills, which is something we could also talk about. But just uncouple the idea that creativity has to be something related to art. It's any type of problem solving.
I love that because actually that was my next question is how does building creativity confidence help in leadership, team building, or entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So think about if you are leading a team, you have to be able to connect dots effectively. You have to be able to come up with ideas. You have to be able to work with each other to come up with the best ideas. They're going to move your project forward, move your organization forward. So the most creative teams are going to be at an advantage. Now, creativity on its own is going to be less effective than creativity that also has effective communication,
Yes.
effective collaboration. So there's a
Yes.
reason why I work within the areas that I call the 3 C's, which is connection, communication, and creativity. So when you have those 3 C's working effectively together, innovation lies at the intersection of those 3 C's. And
Mhm.
that's where I am most effective. That's the work that I do with companies and
I
organizations.
I love that because you talk about 3 C's. So me and my husband have 4 C's: communication, commitment, compromise, and consideration. Those
Ah,
are 4 C's. We've been married almost 44 years. We created our 4 C's. So I tell people about 4 C's, but I love say your 3 C's again. What was that again?
connection, communication, and creativity.
I love it. I love it. It is so true because you need all those things to be creative as far as what you
Yep.
do. So what role does that play in having professional growth or personal healing?
Oh, professional growth or personal healing.
Yes.
Yeah. For professional growth, you want to be connected with people around you. You want to be a very skilled communicator. And the work that I do around communication specifically is not so much, I'm not the person that comes in and helps when, Mary and Joe are in a conflict. I'm not the person you bring in for that, but
Mhm.
I'm the person that you bring in when you've got a team of incredible producers. They're doing amazing work, but either they're getting passed over for their promotions because they're not able to really sell the fact that they're doing such amazing work, or they're not seen as having great executive presence or that type of thing, or they're like, for example, they're a great research team and they're having these amazing insights, but they're not effective at spreading them throughout the organization. So they're not effective at communicating for influence and impact. So
Yes.
I'm the person who comes in and helps really turn that around. So for professional development, you really want to be able to communicate in a way that has influence and has impact, so that people see you as an influential person, as somebody that they want to be connected to, and that they think of when they think, oh, who's the leader here? Who should be promoted? Who do we want to fund? Whose team do we want to fund? That type of thing. So anyway, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. You did. And as you're speaking of that, I remember my days with IBM, 36 years, and I became a team leader. But you're right. When you're passed over for a promotion, you feel like you deserve that promotion, but somebody else gets it. No, you answered it, and that was great. So I want to ask you this here. So can you share a story of someone who transformed through creative expression?
Through creative expression,
Yeah.
the people who come to my creativity retreats, this is like on a personal level, absolutely. I lead these creativity retreats once a year, and the people who come year after year, and what's so satisfying and validating for me is to hear them and to watch them as they really blossom in multiple ways. So they come over the span of 5 days, and they go through a journey arc in that 5-day period of time. So they arrive and everybody's just like sloughing off their day-to-day busyness, and they bring whatever creative project or projects they want to work on. And over the span of those 5 days, everything just really transforms for them. And also I get to watch over the span of years as they start to really more and more step into bigger spaces for themselves, because more and more they claim their creative courage and their creative voice. So that's what I can speak to in that regard. And then I also can speak to, as far as the people that I've worked with in organizations, one example I'll share is a brilliant researcher at Meta. I'll call her Laura. She was trying to explain a crucial insight to a cross-functional teammate, and it was not going well. And she was getting frustrated. He seemed confused. And the more she tried to explain, the worse it got. But then she remembered an exercise that we had done in the workshop that she had with me the previous week. And she realized that he wasn't being difficult, and he certainly wasn't stupid, but he simply had a different context. And she realized that she needed to do something different. And she thought about his background in supply chain management. And she thought, maybe I'll try using an analogy that compares data flow to inventory management. And when she did that, suddenly everything clicked. And he not only understood what she was talking about, but he started getting really excited. And he started seeing connections that she hadn't even considered. And that is an example of what happens when you apply the Create the Impossible framework. Because what she did was she was playing hard. She was playing with different perspectives. That's the first step of the framework, is play hard. And she wasn't afraid to make messy first attempts. Make crap is step number 2. And she learned from each attempt, and learn fast is step number 3. So that's an example of what happens when we apply the framework.
That's awesome. And that makes sense, because you don't know which mindset people are on. So by you teaching her that and giving her the different ways to talk to people that may not understand what you're saying or what they're saying, that's a great way of explaining it. That's awesome. So we're winding down here, but I want to ask you, what's one mindset shift or action step you want our listeners to take today to start living more creatively?
If I could encourage people to do one thing, it is to think about practicing imperfectionism. Allow yourself to be imperfect. And this equates to step 2 of my framework, which is make crap. let yourself be imperfect, forgive yourself for being human. And letting yourself be imperfect really is the same thing as practicing self-compassion.
I love that. I love that. That is great. That's great. And because we don't think about that, because we always think we got to be perfect in
That's
doing
right.
everything and anything we do. And that's what makes us not feel like we're not creative. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. As we're winding down, I'm going to have you back on the show because you got so much to tell us about creativity here. So where can people find you, follow your work, or connect for workshops and programs?
Yeah, the easiest place to find me is at my website, melissadinwiddie.com. But you can also find me on LinkedIn at Melissa Dinwiddie. And you can find me on YouTube at Melissa Dinwiddie as well. And then you can also follow me on Instagram. This one breaks the pattern. I'm on Instagram at a_creative_life. So it's a creative life with underscores in between the words. And then also I put together for your listeners a free one-page checklist that gives you
Okay.
a quick, practical way to unlock fresh ideas and spark innovation fast, especially if you think you're not creative. So go straight to the QR code, or I have a special short link, which is bit.ly/RSCP thank you, all one word. That's for Ready, Set, Collaborate podcast. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you can get my impact innovation checklist. You will have to put in your
That's
name and email address and a little like review statement or something, but I don't
yeah.
do to any email list or anything.
That's awesome. So you're going to send that to me, and I'm actually going to put it in the show notes for the audio part. But people are
Great.
going to see this on YouTube as well. So send that to me. All your contact information is for, as well as your free gift there. So I'm anxious to get that myself. I was going to put my camera up and do the QR code. So yeah, so just send me that short link, and I will put it in the show notes as well. So I am excited and having you on our show, Melissa. Thank you so much for having this conversation with it. What an inspired conversation with the incredible Melissa Dinwiddie, right? If today's episode sparks something in you, whether it's picking up a pen, dancing in the living room, or simply giving yourself permission to play, that is the beginning of reclaiming your creative power. Don't forget to follow Melissa and check out her work and Melissa just gave you her information, and I'm going to put it in the show notes as well. Melissa, thank you for joining us on Ready, Set, Collaborate. I'm Wanda Pearson. Stay inspired, stay bold, and remember, collaboration is the key to success. Until next time, thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of Ready, Set, Collaborate with Wanda Pearson. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights to help you build meaningful connections and successful collaborations. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more great discussions. Until next time, keep collaborating and making an impact.